So I'm just going to go through some pen and ink drawing techniques on this video. I've drawn a drawing of like a horror type skull, as you can see, and I want to vary some different effects with ink pens and try and create texture and things like that. The first one I want to do is called scribble hatching. Now, hatching is something similar to just adding like lines, say like that, and you know, it sort of like shows that it's a shaded area or somewhere where it has to be shadowed or something like that. So that's like hatching. Now scribble hatching is something that I've just probably made up. It sounds made up, but as I draw real sketchy, it's just like in darker areas you can do like scribbles, and the more closer the scribbles together, you can fill in them areas with a bit of dark, and this also creates texture as well. And the more spaced apart the lines, then they're the lighter areas, but the more closer the scribbles together, then you know that they're darker, and you can fill in some of the areas. I'm just using a gel ink pen, as you can see. So I've zoomed into that area so you can see it a lot clearly. You can go into them areas and add more darker scribbles to create texture. So like scribble hatching is just really scribbles and just filling in with like hatched areas, random areas, just to make it more shadowed, like under that cheekbone, like, you know, like rotten sort of things. The next one is texturizing. You can vary this with different, you know, like there's the hatching technique and the scribble hatching technique. Maybe mix it up with thick and thin lines and things like that. I'm going to try and add a area here to show you what I mean, so we can try a bit of scribble. And then hatching, and then maybe some darker areas. And the key is just to try and add texture to it. It's, you know, it's like a rotted sort of skull, or bent skull, I don't know, so, you know, maybe we can just follow some of the lines that I've already inked, well, already drawn, sorry, with a pencil, and then I'm inking now. And also, yeah, follow some of the lines I've already inked as well here, and then try and fill in areas, texture. Now later on I'd probably get a thicker marker in and just fill in some of them areas, so it'd be like total black areas, and just vary the texture. That's really texturizing. You don't go overboard with it really, you just want the key areas where you want all these sort of techniques coming together. So what I'll do is I'll just fill in the other sides, you know, where I've done, maybe do a bit more on that, and then I'll come back with some more techniques. Another pen and ink drawing technique that I like to do, and I've done in previous videos, is drawing with mixing thick and thin lines of ink. Now I usually get a Sharpie marker, I'll just test it under this eye here. So I want there to be a thicker line just to show darkness. Just running out this one a bit, but I can still demonstrate this on the eye. So there's a nice thick line there, and what we can do is just add other techniques under it, maybe some more hatching. So you're using this like thick line as like a base for, you know, the shadow, and then to let the hatching just appear from, you know, from that dark line. So yeah, basically these drawing techniques with ink pens and stuff like that, it's just a mix and match of different sort of techniques, so you can create different effects. So I mainly do hatching on my drawings. You can do cross hatching, but I don't really like the effect of cross hatching. I'll just show you cross hatching. You do like lines one way and then lines the opposite way, and then it just creates a nice sort of area of tone. But I don't generally do that, you know. It's not my type of style to do the cross hatching. I just do the hatching where it's one sort of row of lines, and that's the way I'm comfortable doing shading. So the mixture of thick and thin lines really works in a drawing. I've showed it in other videos, and it's one of the good techniques of inking and using ink. Just varying the thicknesses and also line weight and things like that, which I'll show you later on, and I've showed you in previous videos as well, but that does come into inking as well. So yeah, so that's like the dark thicker lines and then the thin lines. It's really good inking technique to try and master all these different ways of inking, and just try and come up with a drawing that you really like. You always got to remember that the light and the shadow are the areas you want to capture. So I usually go overboard with inking, and I don't leave any light spaces, but the more light spaces that there'll be, say on this skull, would be maybe like some of the raised cheekbones, so you'll leave off some detail there, or maybe on the top of the forehead, which is a bit up there. Bring it down a bit, so there'll be like less detail on this part, more darkness in that nose socket there, in the mouth and things like that. Another technique that I like to do is solid black areas, and then you can take a white pen and go over them. So we'll just sort of colour in a bit of this. This pen's running out. As long as I can fill in like the darker areas on this. Just to show you what I mean. Not totally dark, but I can always go back over it. So you've got like the dark areas, the solid black areas, and then you can take a white pen and just go over. So you're creating a nice contrast, and trying to add in areas which you've already like shaded in with black. Let me draw a few drips or something, I don't know. Cobwebs underneath, I don't know. Just a few details here and there. And you can build up areas on existing white as well. Sometimes you might need to go get some white paint and go over little bits, but since this is drawing with ink, I've just kept with a pen. But when you look, there's more darker areas, and then this white pen becomes more effective and it looks quite good. If you feel like you've done too many areas, then you can just get another black pen and just take some areas out, or fill in some areas and then go back over the white areas. It's, you know, you can't just leave drawings, or you know, if something doesn't look right, then you can always sort it out anyway. Maybe take one of them, a couple of them lines out there. I don't really like them. Maybe that one. And you can go back into the white areas as well and maybe add more detail. Just back and forth, different ways of working. Try and make more detail. This is like nose sockets, so we're trying to make all the cartilage a bit like rotten, and the bone, just more details and stuff. And you can go back in with the white again and try and add more white areas. Just build it back up again. And you get the idea with that. Usually I do the white and black right at the end when I've done most of the drawing, because certain ink pens, these pens don't go over, like especially the gel ink pens, the cheap ones. But usually they go over Sharpie markers and other things. So yeah, that's another inking technique. Another inking technique, which I rarely do, but sometimes I do, just to add a bit of extra different texture to it, especially if it's like a burn texture or something, just to add, just to change up these sorts of rotten textures, is use a dry marker. I've got a Copic marker which has run out of ink, so it's the best way to do this. I use the brush tip and just try and follow some of the shading, maybe experiment with it, I don't know. Follow some of the lines you've already drawn, maybe. It's like a dry marker technique, so you're adding other sort of ink to it. It looks almost grey sometimes, but when you go over some of the darker areas, it makes more out of them little details. It's another inking technique to think about. I also use like the dry brush technique as well. That's slightly more effective, but dry brushing is a lot better when you've got like a wider sort of, say like you've got a full black or something and you dry brush white over it, or grey or something. It looks more effective. But yeah, so try the dry brush technique with a marker. Just add it to another like effect. That was a scribble hatching effect. It creates different sort of textures and things, so it's always worth looking into. If you draw too much of it, you can just go over it and add way more scribble texture with normal ink pens, just to take that out if you don't like that. Just different ways of working. Last of all, what I really like to do is outlining. I usually take a thicker Sharpie marker and maybe try and find, you know, the outline, basically what I've sketched, and try and draw like a thicker outline. Particularly as this is like a central skull drawing, I usually draw that way just in case I want to use the design for a t-shirt or anything, and a thicker outline really helps the drawing sort of like stand out. and that thicker line could become an even thicker line, you know. It's best to start off quite, not like thin, but you know, like that, and then once you've nearly done the full outline of the drawing, then you can look back on it and you can make it thicker if you want to. There's a lot of like rotten wavy lines on this, so and under the chin, that's always going to be thicker anyway. Add texture on that as well. And then I could add like thinner lines for the lip. Maybe there, I'll just quickly ink that lip there, because I know that's going to be like thinner ink lines and things like that. And that's going to be all dark in there. I'll try and keep all that spit dribble stuff there as well. I can't remember if there was another tooth there. I think there was. I think I inked that and just forgot it was there. Yeah, so like the outline goes all the way around the outline of the skull. Try and, you know, follow some of the lines. Maybe correct some lines if it ends up being where you've drawn it too much or something like that. But what I'd do once I've drawn them thicker lines is I get the ink pen and then I start to texturize and add more detail, and that sort of makes me think if the lines need to be thicker, or probably get a thicker ink line on there. And that's some pen and ink drawing techniques. There is a load more which I'd want to do a more advanced video. I just have to collect all the advanced inking techniques and other stuff that you can use, but that another video just gives like a starting point to the way I work. I usually ink real sketchy anyway, as you know from previous videos. I'm drawing this stuff every day, so I'm more used to it. I'm just trying to break down my process a bit more and show you different things and stuff like that. I'm going to be starting more of my vlogs, drawing vlogs, so you'll probably see this finished in another vlog, and a few sketch cards and other stuff, so look out for that. Also, if you look below, I'll have links to my Teespring store where there's new designs. I'm trying to work on more designs for that, so you can check them out and maybe buy some t-shirts and things like that. So you like, subscribe or comment or ask us a question, I don't mind any. Just thanks for sticking around and watching this. Cheers now.